The wildest piece of 60s pop art wasn't a painting or a sculpture. It was a fire-breathing, bright orange muscle car, the Judge. Muscle cars in the late 60s were outrageous. Compared to the original muscle cars of just 5 years earlier, they were absolutely unbelievable. And car buyers couldn't get enough of them. In those days, horsepower was almost unlimited. And there was more on the horizon. Performance parts and even racing equipment were standard. Styling had taken a very non-traditional turn. The muscle cars of the day were loud, proud, and bad to the bone. They had to be. Subtlety might have been a virtue in 1964 with cars like the 409 Impala, but in 1969, it wouldn't get you noticed on the streets. Into this scene, Pontiac threw a new concept car, the GTO Judge. It started out to be an economy muscle car, but by the time it hit the market, it was one of the most expensive road rockets anyone had ever made. Its job was to make the world sit up and take a new look at an old favorite, the GTO. It did that and a whole lot more. The Judge was only around for 3 years, 1969, 70, and 71. But during that time, it created a whole new market segment, just like its predecessor, the little GTO, had done 5 years earlier. It also opened up a whole new palette of color possibilities for the graphic designers, and it made a funny little gag line a national catchphrase. Pontiac had started this whole muscle car thing, and they had stayed at the head of the pack for the past 5 years. Their dominance was due to 2 factors. Their cars were fast, and everybody knew they were fast.
Pontiac certainly had owned that segment of the market with the GTO, having such a head start on all the rest of the competition. One of the things that began to happen is in the 1967 model year was Pontiac began to give the GTO more sophistication. A lot of cars were being delivered to customers with as many options as a Grand Prix would have, which pushed the price of the car up beyond the reach of a lot of younger owners.
The first GTOs had established in everyone's mind that the GTO was the fastest car on the street, and in muscle car marketing, image was as important as horsepower. But an interesting thing happens when you're the leader of the pack. Everyone comes gunning for you. As soon as the auto industry noticed the success of the GTO, all the other car companies had to have their own muscle car. The parade of super sports, grand sports, RTs, GTs, and all the rest offered not just performance, but image. And as all muscle car lovers knew, it wasn't enough just to be fast. You also had to look fast.
This whole image thing was really kind of a big deal to the kids at the drive-in. The cars with the rally wheels didn't go any slower or faster than the ones that just had the hubcaps, and cars with the stripes ran the same speed as the ones that didn't have them, but you looked fast, and that was a really big deal. It made the whole thing a lot more fun, too.
The problem facing the automakers was how to get their muscle car to stand out among the dozens of fast, fun cars competing for attention in the marketplace. The first company to figure out how to do this was Plymouth. When we come back, the muscle car industry takes a whole new direction. By 1968, big engines, white leather tires, and dual exhaust pipes were just the starting point for muscle car manufacturers. Now the cars had to have racing stripes, air scoops that worked, a spoiler or two, and most of all, they needed a catchy name. There was the Dodge RT, that stood for Road and Track. There was the Super Sport, which was self-explanatory, and the Super B, which wasn't, and the GSX, and a dozen others. But in the middle of all these tough-sounding names came a new car from Plymouth with a name that was just plain cute. It was called the Roadrunner.
And the Roadrunner I won't say it alarmed Pontiac management, but it certainly was a wake-up call for them. And they recognized that they had lost a significant portion of the youth market.
The Roadrunner offered exceptional good looks and plenty of power for under $3,000. And it was an instant success. It was built precisely according to the muscle car formula. A light, attractive body, a big, powerful engine at an affordable price. To top it all off, it even went, what more could you want? 1968 was also a major restyling year at General Motors, and the 68 GTO's new look was a huge success. The GTO featured the first energy-absorbing front bumper. Called the Endura bumper, it was also the first in the industry to be painted body color. With all these new innovations and the gorgeous new body, Pontiac sold some 90,000 GTOs in '68, but Plymouth's new Roadrunner sold close to 45,000 cars that same year. Pontiac saw this as a challenge to its dominance in the muscle car marketplace.
John DeLorean, who was general manager of Pontiac, put together what he called an ad hoc committee. This was an unofficial group of executives that would study the market and make recommendations about future product.
The rivalry between the Judge and the Roadrunner was a natural because you had two competing manufacturers. You had Chrysler Corporation, it was doing great guns, it really hit a nerve with their populist Roadrunner. And you had the GTO Judge, which was also based on a very popular car, the GTO. There were a lot of similarities between standard engines. You know, there was similar displacement. Both cars were aimed at delivering maximum bang for the buck.
By now, it wasn't hard to spend over $4,000 on a nicely optioned GTO. It was one of the fanciest muscle cars on the street. If Pontiac brought out a low-cost GTO, it wouldn't have a lot of the nice things people had come to expect.
Out of the ad hoc committee came a recommendation to build a low-priced GTO that would be stripped of a lot of options, keeping the price down, give it a pretty wild paint job, some kind of pop art graphics, and go head-to-head with the Roadrunner in terms of price and image.
Like the Roadrunner, the design committee suggested offering only a front bench seat instead of bucket seats, limited interior and exterior color choices, no hood scoops, and no chrome trim rings for the rally wheels. The car wouldn't even have the Endura bumper that everyone loved. It would have the regular Le Mans chrome bumper.
One of the ideas was to put a 350 HO in it and take the hood tack and put a matching shell on the passenger side. And that was going to be a little air intake, like a little Cal induction air intake. They brought the car to completion and presented it to DeLorean. And DeLorean took one look at it and said, not as long as I'm general manager of Pontiac is there ever going to be a 350 engine in a GTO. The GTO is a flagship car of this division, and it's always going to have at least a 400 cubic inch engine in it.
DeLorean had just set the parameters for the new low-buck GTO. His order was, first, make it go fast, then figure out how to cut the price. Stay with us as Pontiac goes back to the drawing board on the American muscle car.